Um, Welcome back to the afternoon session of our STTP, the short-term training program for titled Trajectories of Professional Development, Harnessing the Powers of Business Communication. And we have one more resource person with us who will be equally impactful as the morning session, whose session we are looking forward to with great interest and enthusiasm. And it will be my pleasure to introduce her to the participants. And her name is Chumki Biswas, Dr. Chumki Biswas. So let me introduce Dr. Chumki Biswas to the participants. And Yes. So, Dr. Chumki Biswas holds a doctorate degree in the field of English literature, English language teaching from the University of Mumbai, and is actively involved in extensive research in task-based teaching for listening and speaking skills. And she is equipped with 18 years of teaching experience. She is often invited as an area expert in various well-claimed institutions like the Tata Institute of Social Sciences Department of English, and also uh, for Department of Distance Education of the University of Mumbai. So she is an expert, she's called as an expert in these premier institutes. And then she's also associated with Oxford University Press since the last 13 years and she's been working as a subject matter expert there and has conducted over 400 workshops and seminars in areas like English language teaching, soft skills, business communication, organization behavior, to name a few. So, and she's also associated with international organizations like Prometric, USA, then the Sprott School of Business in Canada, and Oxford University Press, United Kingdom, in the capacity of an expert. So we do not have an ordinary resource person. We have an extremely down-to-earth, extraordinary resource person who can really create an impact with the kind of information she gives, which is hands-on, with a lot of practical experience. And today you will taste a bit of what is this practical experience in this afternoon session. So I welcome you all to the afternoon session, and I especially welcome with pride Dr. Chumki Biswas, my proud privilege to have you on our STTB program. So Dr. Chumki Biswas.
Thank you, ma'am, for this lovely introduction. I hope I can do justice to what you've just said for the last so many minutes. That was a really long introduction. Okay, good afternoon to all my viewers. Before I start my session, I would like to give a few disclaimers. First one is that it's an afternoon session, and after lunch, it is always a difficult task to stay awake. So that is the first challenge that both of us are going to face, the viewers as well as me. And also thanks to COVID-19, everything right now is online. So the first thing that I faced in the last 1 week is that I had to learn how to use Zoom. Trust me, it wasn't an easy job, and I'm still having teething problems. So if I make any bloopers, kindly forgive. Next thing about this session is that it's an online affair. So there are quite a few challenges that we're going to face. First one is that I cannot see you as my audience. So obviously, I do not get to see your reaction to what I'm saying. Second thing is that it cannot be very interactive, and hence I will not be able to ask you questions, and neither will you be able to answer any of my queries. And another related issue from this is that this cannot be activity driven, because again, it's very difficult to conduct any kind of activities online. So keeping all these obstacles in mind, I hope that you will bear with me and judge me kindly. And in case I put you to sleep, please forgive me. Okay, so without further ado, I will share my screen with you now, and I will take you through today's session, mostly through the help of some slides. I'll also be showing you some videos and a few pictures here and there. And I also have a surprise in store for you. Let's see if that works out well. Uh, just a minute. I need sharing rights.
That will be done just in a few minutes. Okay. Yeah.
You can share your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not able to see my desktop somehow.
Okay, just click on your Zoom window that is on your desktop below. Can you see your Zoom window?
Yeah, I've done that.
There is a share screen option. Can you see it on your Zoom window?
No, yeah, right now I can, yes.
We can see your screen now. Huh?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So as you have seen on the brochure, that the topic I'll be talking about has to do with business etiquette. Now, what mostly I'll be focusing on is how to do business in such a way that it creates an impact, and it also has your own unique style, so that you make a statement when you're dealing with your clients. At the end of the day, we are all in business, whether it's the business of teaching students, whether you're the CEO of a company, or you're running a small grocery store. We are ultimately all businessmen. So here is my topic for today, the essentials of business etiquette. Now, whenever I go for a workshop, I realize that the audience always loves to hear a story, and there is nothing more gripping than a good story. So today I decided to create my session in the form of a story, and since I am the author of my own story, I decided to keep a few chapters to my story. So the number of chapters, again, I got to decide, and I also got to decide the titles of each chapter. I found this wonderful quotation which says, storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world. And that's exactly why we are having this seminar today. Uh, I'm going to show you the first chapter, and you might be a little surprised to see the title because it's called Bisleri Please. And you might be wondering, what has a bottle of mineral water got to do with anything about business etiquette? Well, I would love you to think a little more. And the purpose behind these cryptic chapter headings is mostly because I want you to ponder upon and maybe guess what areas of content I will be covering. The second chapter is going to be called Outside to Inside. So obviously it sounds like an order. You go from outside to inside, so you can try and figure out what this is about. The third chapter, I couldn't resist, being an English teacher, to take something from Shakespeare. So that's why I called it To Be or Not to Be. And we would see ahead in the presentation again what this chapter is about. And the fourth chapter, oh my God, it's just a little box. And whenever we hear of the word box, we are reminded of the particular saying, thinking out of the box. It's become the buzzword. So we again got to wait and see whether I'm going to talk about thinking out of the box or I'm talking about some other kind of box. The fifth chapter, Yubaseo, ciao, bonjour. I think all of you who are big Netflix fans and who read a lot would immediately be able to identify that these are greetings from around the world. Again, what would I do with greetings in a workshop on business etiquette? And the last chapter, interestingly, I've called it the War of the Chopsticks. Now, I purposely kept it as the last chapter because by the time I get to the sixth chapter, it will really be a war for both you and me to stay awake. War on my hands to keep you awake, and war your hands also to stay awake. So these are the 6 chapters. So right now you already have an idea that the session is going to be divided into 6 subsections, and I'll be taking you through each chapter one by one. So the next thing we are moving to is chapter 1. And as I've already told you, that the heading is Bisleri, please. And I'm going to talk about Bisleri is mineral water. So I remember, as long as I can recall, that whenever I go out to buy a bottle of mineral water, I go and say, "Bhai ek Bisleri dena." And even if they hand me a bottle of Aquafina, I still call it a Bisleri. Yes, exactly. What I'm going to talk about today is that Bisleri has become synonymous with a bottle of mineral water. And no matter which brand you're using, we still call it a Bisleri. It's the same thing that we have when we go to buy washing powder and we say Surf Dena, or we go to buy toothpaste and we say Colgate Dena. And the most interesting of all, I think teachers and students would agree with me when we go to the photocopy shop and say Xerox karke dena bhai. So yes, we are talking about branding here, and more specifically, we are talking about personal branding. Now, the reason Bisleri is so famous is because they have been able to establish themselves as the leader in the market. They have been able to make a brand for themselves. It's the same thing that we are looking to do to ourselves in our own fields. Now, what is personal branding? Personal branding is nothing but creating your own reputation and stronghold in your own line of business, and sometimes even outside your line of business. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about personal branding is that you cannot buy a good reputation. You got to earn it. You cannot ask some advertising company to give you a branding, to make your branding. You are responsible for doing it yourself. So the first step is get your values in place. Well, this reminds me of homeopathic medicine, and the doctors always tell you that it does not treat the symptoms. It treats the problems from inside you. It works on your immunity. And today's session is mostly along that principle, which says that if the inside is okay, then the outside is also okay. If your values are in place, then what you do in life and what you give to people will also be in place and will also be valuable. So this is about having your values in place. And how do you decide what are the values that that rule your life? It's very simple to think of. Is like when you have grandchildren, and before you're about to die, if I ask you that pass on 3 of your most important values of life to them, think of the values that you will talk about. Those are essentially the core that makes you who you are today. Now, talking about values, I want to share a personal story with you, and just to show you how values are the most important thing in personal branding, and that's why it's at step 1. Last year, 3 of us were approached by Oxford University to write a book on communication skills. We worked really hard and towards completion. When we were just about to sign the contract, one of the three pulled out just by sending a simple message saying that I will not be able, I will not be a part of this book anymore because I already have a prior published book. So I'm sorry, I have to pull out of this. And guess what happens after that? She publishes a book of her own, and most of the material that she has in her book has been taken from what we had worked on. Now, what happens is that she has got herself a book in the short run, but she has lost a big thing in the long run. She has lost her credibility in return for a book with a small publisher. What did I lose and my colleague lose? We lost the opportunity to publish a book with one of the most leading companies, publishers. We lost sleep, we lost effort, but what we lost is recoverable. What she lost in terms of her values is nothing that can be recovered. So there is a very famous saying which says that it takes 20 years to build your reputation, but it might just take 5 minutes to kill it. So that is how important your values are when you are going to make your personal brand. Step two, be visible. Uh, it's a multimedia generation, so everybody is there somewhere online. Presence is there. But the difference is in the quality of your presence online. Changing your DP 50 times a day or posting stupid forwards on WhatsApp groups do not make you visible. There are a lot of platforms out there, and you really have to choose on which platforms you want to make your presence felt. Um, for businessmen, I think, and especially for teachers, writers, one of the best way to be visible online is to make your own website. Now, creating a website is an expensive affair because you have to host it, but if you go to Google Sites, you will see that you can host it without any cost. And the next thing is this: as teachers, you can always publish good papers, not for predatory journals that charge you 3 grand and a 1 or 2 day seminar, and you publish papers. They're pretty much useless. But when you write good papers of international value, you become visible in the right way. Also, writing a book is a great idea, provided the book adds value. Okay, coming to this part, I recently noticed that a lot of teachers have started posting, the video tutorials online. And the most interesting part is that teachers that I may not have known before, I have come to know through their video tutorials. Now, here is the catch. You might be posting 15 video tutorials online. I will go and watch the first one, but if it does not add anything to my existing knowledge, if it does not add value to what I have, then rest assured I will not go and watch your second video. So the number of videos you put up, the number of papers you publish will not matter if you are not giving quality work to your client. So adding value with what you are doing is again a big part of personal branding. Bisleri has stood the test of time because they give you quality. If they're charging you for something, they're also keeping their promise. So keep your promise and add value. Sorry, there's a mistake here. Instead of step 4, it's still written step 3. What is most important is to start now. All our lives, we keep thinking that we will someday write a book. At least that has happened to me. And I keep dreaming of writing a book, but the time never comes when I actually sit down and start writing the first para. So my advice is that start now. Now is the right time. And trust me, if you keep waiting for time, you will never find time enough. So start now, but when you start now, you also necessarily start small. you cannot be well known overnight. You really have to nurture. So what step 4 tells you is that it's important to start, but also it is important to wait. Once you have, planted a plant, it will take time for fruition. Okay, so here I would like to take you to an image that I have. It might take a little time to load. And I'm sure all of you can see that the word Amazon is flashed here. So even for those of you who have never seen Jeff Bezos, would most probably guess that the person sitting in this pokey little office is Jeff Bezos. What is of interest is that this is the first office that he had, and this picture was taken in 1999. And what I would like to draw your attention to is the fact that the table that he's sitting at, it's nothing but a wooden door that had been taken off the hinges, and 4 wooden stumps were added to it to make it function like a table. And look at how small and how cheaply he started. I don't think he invested money to even have a printed board for his company, not even a printed flex, which is pretty cheap. What he did was he just spray painted Amazon.com onto the wall. Now, this is how he started. This is how small he started. And 20 years later, today, Jeff Bezos is the richest person in the world. Now, from this picture, we are going to talk about all the 4 factors that I'm talking about, that he had a vision, he had values which were strong, he wanted to give back something. He started small, but he kept on adding to it. And he gave clients what they really wanted, what they really appreciated. And today, look where he has come. So from this picture, again, I would ask the audience to take heart and yes, and make a promise to start now. After this session today, even if one among the viewer, you go back home and you start your own YouTube channel and you put up something that is valuable to the viewers, then I think my job is done. So this is about personal branding. The next thing I'm going to go is to chapter 2. But before I go to chapter 2, I have a request to the technical team. Can you please put up the first link that I had given for chapter 2? While you are posting the link to the audience, I'm going to be talking a little bit about chapter 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so my second chapter is called Outside to Inside. And initially, remember, I was talking about maybe it has something to do with order. And I also gave you a hint in the previous chapter when we were talking about values. So if in fact you've been paying attention to what I've been saying, figuring out what this chapter will be about won't be very difficult. Now, so here is the surprise that I was talking about. I have prepared a quiz, an online quiz for the participants. Right now, the technical team is posting the link to the quiz. This quiz is only of 5 questions. It's a multiple choice, and it is time bound, as in you just have 3 minutes to complete the test. In case you do not complete it within 3 minutes, it will not consider the ones that you did not mark. Okay. Also, the link, once you click on it and you start answering, you can attempt it only once. So please try and attempt it first time and complete it. It will not take you a long time. And trust me, it's a fun quiz. And once you do it, you will get a fair grounding about what this particular chapter is going to be on. Okay, I'm hoping that the link has already been posted, and I'm going to time myself on the stopwatch and I'm going to stop talking for 3 minutes until my audience um, finishes the quiz. Okay, the 3 minutes that I had set my timer for is up. So I'm assuming that the people who are watching the session have already done the session, sorry, the quiz. Inside Out, today what I'm going to talk about is mostly about first impression. Uh, I think already a lot has been said about how important first impressions are, and there is nobody who disagrees with the fact that first impressions are important. But what is most important is almost everyone will make a good first impression, but only a few will make a good lasting impression. So the difference is between a lasting good impression and a good first impression. A first impression which does not stay will not make a difference in the business world. But a first impression, a good one that stays with people, is what will set you apart from the rest of the service providers. Okay, so what is the first step to becoming, a person who has a good first impression? I always say, practice introducing yourself. It's my job as a teacher to talk and sell my words in a way, but trust me, even though I teach interviewing skills, uh, when I went for an interview myself and they asked me, say something about yourself, and I was completely blank because I could not think of anything that I could say that sounded impressive enough. So I ended up saying the most stupid things about myself. And this is why I'm saying that, practicing how to introduce yourself is very, very important. Even the way you shake hands with someone will tell people a lot about what kind of a person you are. And for example, if you are, the cool dude kind of a person, you will notice that people will put their hands like this, at an angle. People who are wishy-washy would proffer maybe only three of their fingers, and it would be a half-handed handshake. People who have a strong, dominating military bearing probably would crush your knuckles in their grip. This is about greeting, but also about how you introduce yourself. And the funniest thing, and I will say it's quite intolerable, is when I hear people say myself, Mr. So and so. It sounds so terrible. At least when you're introducing yourself, try and avoid using myself, because that is totally unacceptable and wrong grammar. Okay, so here is the answer that you are looking for, that which of these was wrong. I think I myself, Mr. Akash, is the wrong one. Okay. Next one is dress to impress is what you've always heard, that dress to impress, dress to make an impact. But I'm going to say something differently, is dress to impress yourself. When I'm saying yourself, I mean to say that you should impress first your mind, and then you should impress your body, in the sense that what you wear should make you look good. It should make you look attractive. It should make you look smart. Okay, now most of us forget why we dress in the first place. Dresses, clothes were meant to cover us and protect us from inclement weather, from heat, rain, cold. So we need to understand that the dressing and how you need to dress has to go hand in hand with the country that you are staying in. Just because somebody came and told you that Western outfits or a blazer is the thing to wear when you are in a formal affair, really does not cut mustard in today's time, because for a Westerner who comes from a cold country, wearing a blazer to work or to a meeting makes sense. They're comfortable in it. But in India, where it's a tropical, a subtropical country, wearing a blazer to work really is killing. So you need to understand the importance of what kind of clothing is suitable for what kind of weather. And this is something that you have to keep in mind. Dress according to where you stay. Dress according to what makes you look good, not what is in fashion. And of course, you need to learn the difference between what is formal looking and what is not so formal looking. So please get this idea out of your head that only Western standards are acceptable. I want to share an interesting image with you here. This is from IIT, yes, Bombay. I, this is IIT Bombay students, and this is a picture from 2019, and they decided that we will not be wearing blazers to a graduation ceremony, and they started wearing traditional Indian wear. And it kind of set a pattern. After this, if I actually go ahead and show you, let me type and show you. Yeah. So here you have IIT Tripura, you have IIT BHU, we have Bombay, and in fact, right now, this is the current rage where you wear something that belongs to your region, to your country. Incidentally, you might notice that our prime minister, no matter where he's going, where he's traveling, he likes to wear the traditional Indian wear. He's mostly seen in a Nehru jacket, which is really something that we need to learn from. Okay, next one is smile to acknowledge. Now, this is a very, very cultural thing. We Indians, we have a lot of beautiful culture, but we do not have a good culture of smiling at strangers. We might be traveling in the same lift, and when you make eye contact with someone, we try so hard to pretend we haven't seen you. I think it's easier to just, smile, a nod, and acknowledge the person. You don't need to say anything. So this is one thing we really need to learn from the Westerners, is that we need to smile at people. And smiling also comes with the greeting people and greeting all and sundry. I have specifically marked out the all and sundry to everyone, in the sense that we Indians have a big chip on our shoulder, in the sense we suffer from a lot of status barrier. Like, whenever I go, I see the watchman of buildings always says salam, sab, mem sab, whatever. But I rarely see the building residents turning around and greeting the watchman in return. Uh, I have seen students greeting the teachers, but I've never seen a teacher greeting a student first. They might deem to return their greeting, but rarely have I seen us teachers greeting the students first. Now, this is where we need to make a change. Greeting is always initiated by the person who first makes eye contact. So it doesn't matter if you are the CEO of a company, or the principal of a college, you are the janitor, whoever looks at the other person first is expected to greet. And trust me, a smile and a greeting is the easiest way to make forays into people's heart. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost a single penny, and it can solve a lot of problems. So these two things go hand in hand, with smile from your heart, and also greet people. Step 5, again, problem with Indians. We are extremely curious about other people. We want to know so much. We want to know every detail. We want to know, how many children, how many houses, cars they have. We want to know everything. So we are always trying to question people, getting to know more about them. Now, this is not a very, very impressive habit. This is something we should stop doing. What is most important to do is observe people around you. When you are in a new setting, when you are among strangers, it is good to know whom you have to deal with. So observe, understand your audience, understand your clientele, understand the people around you, and then you know where to pitch yourself in. So uh, instead of talking, learn to become a good listener, because that is what will, give you pointers towards how to talk. Next thing is, when you're meeting people for the first time, do not have verbal diarrhea and be all over the place. Speak little, speak when necessary, and when you open your mouth, please think what you're going to say. So speak sense, speak less, and speak only when necessary. The last one is be humble. You know, I said in the first chapter that you got to be visible, but you do not need to beat your own drum at all times. I often go to places and I see people coming up and immediately whipping out their business card and giving it to you. This is so like, okay, please look at me, please take me seriously. I think you give your business card only when somebody shows an interest towards it. Do not go offering business cards just like that. You're just undervaluing yourself. So be humble. Don't go about talking about how many degrees you have, what you've accomplished. If you mean business, if you are strong in your area, it will show sometime or the other. So this is what is a very important step in people liking you. And liking goes a great distance in creating trust. And once you have trust, then people would want to do business with you. So here, I want to show you a quotation. I really liked it. Okay, that's a problem. Yeah. So it says, your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. How you leave others feeling after an experience with you becomes your trademark. So you are your own company, you are your own brand, and how you advertise yourself at the end of the day, how you market yourself is totally dependent on you. And the next thing that I'm going to show you is a video. It's an interesting one. Uh, okay.
I'm so excited because I got to go to New Zealand a few.
Okay, before I start this video, I will just give you a little background because I would not be showing you the entire video. This is Stephen Colbert. He's a very well-known American comedian who hosts a late-night show, and he is a really, really funny person. And this particular video is where he is interacting with the New Zealand Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern. Okay, so I'm going to start from the 50th minute. Okay, I just, video is not showing. Okay, sorry. Excuse me, sir.
Ma'am, actually, we cannot see your video that you actually played on your phone.
Okay, do I need any sharing rights or I have to go out and...
I think you share your screen, so it has to come.
Okay, let me show it from somewhere else. Just a minute.
Can you just share your screen once again?
Yeah, I'll stop share and I'll do it once
Yes,
again,
yes,
right?
ma'am. Can you share it now? Yes, ma'am. Now we can see that video.
Okay, just a moment. That you have seen how, hello? Yeah, now that you have seen how she personally came to pick him up, I'm going to push forward to the 4th minute. Can I be seen?
Yes, ma'am. But your screen is not.
Okay. I think I've closed my PPT somehow. Sorry, I'll have to go over the whole thing again.
Okay.
Okay, so while I'm going ahead, the reason I showed this video is to show you that this is the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and look how humble she is. She drives her own car. She doesn't have commandos around her. She is so humble that at a traffic signal, she is waving to strangers, and she is so chilled out about the whole thing. In India, even the smallest, a corporator, a small MLA also has so much air around him or her that it's difficult to imagine, the kind of humility that you see from someone who is placed so high in life. And this is exactly what we need to cultivate in ours, no matter what your station in life is, no matter how much money you have in your pockets. Being humble is the key to making the best and the most lasting first impression. Okay, sir, I will be going to chapter 3. So before I go to chapter 3, I would like you to post the link to the 3rd chapter quiz to the audience. The audience, I would request you to go through the same kind of drill that we did for chapter 2. There will be a link sent to you. Please click on it Please answer within the stipulated 3 minutes. And once you have finished answering, I will take you through the next chapter slide. I will do the same drill. I will start my stopwatch.
He sent the link.
Yes, I have also started my stopwatch.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, could you
ma'am,
give me a feedback? Could you do the previous quiz without any trouble?
I couldn't, I didn't attempt it because we are on Zoom.
Okay.
But,
The
ma'am,
audience
can
should
you,
be able to.
yeah, just share the screen so that we can, I'll just call you. Yeah.
We were able to do it very well. There was no disturbance in the link.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mansi, ma'am.
Chimki, just switch off your video for a minute so then you can talk around. मतलब तेरा फेस मत दिखाना फिर मैं बताती हूँ otherwise you just change the setting on your screen. हाँ what has happened is तुम्हारा वीडियो तुम्हारा पर्सनल जो मेल है ना वो मतलब जो चैप्टर जो लिंक है वो स्क्रीन पे है so just your face should be seen नहीं तो तेरा प्रेजेंटेशन ना इसके लिए मैं बोल रही हूँ. नहीं दिख रहा था आराम से दिख रहा है जस्ट नाउ व्हेन यू चेंज दैट पिक ना तो वो वीडियो फिर दिस हैज कम सो यू स्विच ओवर टू योर प्रेजेंटेशन मोड ओनली ऑन द बिग स्क्रीन है ना नेक्स्ट चैप्टर नहीं मेरे स्क्रीन जूम स्क्रीन में आई कैन सी द मेल्स दैट यू हैव सेंट है ना तो बाय चांस जस्ट चेक इफ यू हैव ओपनड योर मेल ठीक है ना because I'll show you a pic. You don't worry, chill. क्योंकि the participants are writing the quiz, ना? So I'll show you a pic of my screen. Huh? Yeah. ठीक है? हाँ. Hello. हाँ.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, no, we can see clearly.
अभी ठीक हो गया चिमकी. Now it's perfect. Now it's okay. अभी okay.
Okay.
हाँ.
Okay, we are done with the 3 minutes. In fact, there was some technical glitch, so I stopped for more than 3 minutes. But anyways, I'm hoping that the audience, you would have finished taking the quiz by now. So, to be or not to be is a famous quotation by Shakespeare, as we all know, and it's an existential dilemma. But I have used it in a way to say, to be remembered or not to be remembered. So once you make a first impression, and after that, when you're talking, you're not doing anything other than giving a presentation. A presentation does not necessarily mean that you always have to go behind a podium to talk, or you have to talk with slides. Even when you're talking to people face to face, it's some kind of presentation. So the next thing we're going to talk about is presentation skills. Okay, so what I've done is this entire slide, I'm going to take you through a few quotations that I really loved, and I feel it, kind of encapsulates the essence of presentation skills. The human brain starts working the moment you're born and never stops until you stand up to speak in public. And I think we all of us have faced this. Trust me, I didn't sleep last night, the whole night, because I was on tenterhooks about this presentation. Even though I take lectures every other day, face to face, doing an online session was really freaking me out. So yeah, initially when I started talking, to me, I sounded like I was a different person. But yes, 2 or 3 minutes down the line, I started getting a little more comfortable. Right now, I'm pretty comfortable doing this presentation with you. The next one, grasp the subject, the words will follow. Well, if you know really what you have to talk about, if you love your subject, if you know your field like the back of your hand, you really don't need to have a script in front of you. You don't need to memorize your sentences. The words will just come. And the third quotation, it takes an hour of preparation for each minute of presentation. My family was ready to kick me out because the number of practice sessions I have been having since the last 4 or 5 days really has taken a toll on my family. So yes, I have prepared a lot, just to do this 1 or 2 hour presentation. So the next one, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Uh, you have to be true to your values, you have to be true to yourself, and only when you are who you are, you're humble, you are connected to the earth, you're an earthy person, will you make a good presentation. The moment you try to pretend to be something else, you do not impress the audience at all. No audience ever complained about a presentation or speech being too short. So the takeaway from this is that the less you speak, the lesser you speak, it's the better always. So the shorter the presentation, the lesser number of words you have to use to mean what you say is ultimately the best practice. Okay, so going to the steps that will make us good presenters. I have a quotation here by Bob Marley, and he says, "Some people feel the rain, others just get wet." So when you speak, you might come across as an interesting person, but the moment people walk out from your presence, they will completely forget, first of all, about what you said, and the next thing is about who you are. But if you do a good presentation, people will carry the memory of who you are for a long time with them. And this is exactly what it means, that some people will feel the rain because of the kind of presentation you make. Okay, step one is a stand in full view. The biggest challenge for these online sessions is that it's very difficult to stand and give a session, and I really had to train myself to sit quietly in one place, face the camera to do this presentation. But I hope this COVID problem will not, be there forever and ever. So if you really want to be impressive in your speaking, please stand in full view of the audience. It's sad to see eminent speakers, people, well-known people going and hiding behind a podium. Now, the moment you stand behind a podium, 2/3 of your body is hidden by the podium. So people get to see only 1/3, which is a compromise because you would like to use your entire presence, your entire body to emphasize what you are going to say. So stand in full view. This is very, very important. Now, before I go to the other steps that would make us good presenters, I would like to show you a video. Sir, please let me know if the video is playing. Okay. Well, also this video is of Steve Jobs, and he was giving a presentation. I will not show you the entire video, and also apologize for the quality of the video. I couldn't find a good one with a better resolution. This was the best that I could find.
There's something in the air.
No, ma'am, we cannot see it.
What is it? Well, as you know, Apple makes the...
Okay, so what do I have to do?
The last time, whatever you have done for that video, can you do that again?
Okay, so I will share screen once again.
Yes, yeah, that will be fine.
Okay, maybe because I made it into a link, some problem is
Yes, you
happening.
can share this. Not a problem. Just make a full screen of your hair.
What is it?
Okay.
Well, as you know, Apple makes the best notebooks on the planet. The MacBook and the MacBook Pro. These are the standards in the industry by which competitive products are judged. Well, today, we're introducing a third kind of notebook. It's called the MacBook Air. Now, what is the MacBook Air? In a sentence, it's the world's thinnest notebook. So, what does that mean? Well, we went out and looked at all the thin notebooks out there. Most people think of these, the Sony TZ series. They're good notebooks, and they're thin. Right? This is what they look like. Side view there. We looked at all of them out there and kind of tried to distill the best of the breed of all of them. And, they generally weigh about 3 pounds. They're, in this case, in the Sony's case, they're about 0.8 inches to 1.2 inches thin. They're a wedge shape. This is quite representative. They compromise, though, to get the weight down on things like the display. They have an 11 or 12-inch display, most of them an 11. They also compromise on the keyboard. Instead of putting full-size keyboards in, they make miniature keyboards. And they don't run them as fast as they could because their thermal envelopes don't support faster processors. So we looked at this and we said, what do we like and what do we think is a compromise here? We think the weight's a good target, 3 pounds. But we think there's too much compromising to get there. Too much compromising on thickness, too much compromising on less than a full-size display, less than a full-size keyboard, and we think you could put even more performance in one of these products. So, let's take a look at the thinness first. This is that Sony product. Again, one of the best in the field. 1.2 inches down to 0.8 inches. This is the MacBook Air. 0.76 inches down to an unprecedented 0.16 inches. Now, I want to point something out here. The thickest part of the MacBook Air is still thinner than the thinnest part of the TZ series. Okay? We're talking thin here. So, it's so thin, it even fits inside one of these envelopes that we've all seen floating around the office. And so let me go ahead and show it to you now. This is it. Let me take it out here. This is the new MacBook Air, and you can get a feel for how thin it is. Yeah, there it is. Look at this. All right. Now,
Okay, I'm going to stop the video here and go back to the slides. Okay, now this is one of my, he is one of my favorite presenters because there are quite a few things that I really love about him. The first thing is that look at how simply he presents himself. He's just wearing a black color t-shirt and jeans. He has not come in a blazer. He has not come decked up to the nines. Second thing to notice is that look at how easy and fluid his movements are. He's using the entire space available to walk around, and he does not hide himself behind a podium. And what is most interesting to note is that when you know your content, you don't need a script. And this is exactly, you can see with how he speaks, he knows what he has to say because he has built that product. That product is him. So, if you know your field, if you know your topic, if you know your subjects, the words will simply come. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is, I will go to the next point and then come to the next thing about, sorry about that.
Again?
I need to share it again?
I think, or you can just switch on your presentation because we can see only YouTube. See.
Can you see?
I can see only your YouTube screen.
Okay, I have to new share. Share. Is it visible now?
No.
Okay, so what do I do? Can you help me here, sir?
Yes, please share it again. Just click on your presentation.
Okay.
And then share. Yes. No, yes. No, we can see it clearly.
We can see you, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Once in a while, just give me feedback because I'm not realizing from this side. Did you get to see the video properly?
Yes. Yes.
No, thank you. Okay. Okay. So going to step 2, I don't know why it went to step 3, but I'm sorry about that. Okay. Step 2 talks about use a multi-sensory approach. Now, what is a multi-sensory approach? I would like to show you that when we take in information, we are taking in information basically through our 5 senses, that is through our eyes, through our ears primarily. Then we are also taking information through the touch, the taste, and the nose. So this is known as the VARK model of learning. So when you're doing a presentation, if you are only giving material that is appreciated by visual learners or maybe auditory learners, what you are in fact doing is you're doing an injustice to kinesthetic learners or maybe read and write.
Ma'am, may I interrupt? Please, your screen is blank again. Yeah, now it's perfect. Now it's perfect.
No,
Yes.
I need to show something, so I'll have to go out of this. Wherever I've created a link, it is giving me trouble.
Take your time, no issue.
Yeah. Let me see. Can you see?
No.
Now?
No.
Okay, I don't know why this is. I will do it again.
Yes, that will be better. I can see your face, so I think you have to share. Now we can see your screen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We can see the pic also. Yeah.
right. This is known as the VARC model for learning styles, and so when you are teaching or when you're giving a presentation, if you are simply writing on the board or if you're just using slides which has text in it, you are mostly appealing to the read and write, or maybe a video to the visual and the auditory. Many a times we're leaving out on the kinesthetic learner. So what is important to note in Steve Jobs' presentation is that he also had a kinesthetic element to his presentation, where he actually took out the notebook and he presented it physically. So when he was touching it, when he was turning it around on his fingers, the audience could almost sense it themselves, how light or how thin the whole thing is. So, when we do activities during a presentation, when we involve the audience, that is when you are, addressing all the different kinds of learners. So don't just appeal to the visual or auditory learners. Make sure you are appealing to the read-write learner and the kinesthetic learner also. Now I need to go back to my slide. Okay, this is the problem every time can you see the screen now?
Ma'am, we can see only the links. So I think you'll have to hit the link and share the screen. I think that is the thing. We can't see the video or the pic.
Okay, I need to go back to my.
Try to share it again.
Yes, yes. I'm getting a little frazzled here. Okay.
Take your time, ma'am.
Okay, so we have spoken about the multi-sensory approach. Is it visible now, the screen, ma'am?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
visible. Your screen is visible. Slides are visible.
Right,
Yes.
right. I need to be on the slide. So next we are moving on to step 3 is choose concreteness. And there is a question in your questionnaire where I said when you have to state a fact, what's the best way of saying something? So instead of being subjective, we always need to be objective. So instead of saying it is very hot here in Bombay, now people in Bombay are used to 30-degree centigrade, but somebody maybe who has come down from Alaska, for him even a 20-degree centigrade would be stifling hot. So how hot is hot you cannot express until you give specific facts, and when you state specific facts, that is known as concreteness. And you will see that Steve Jobs, his entire presentation was about sizes and numbers. There was hardly any text in his entire slide, and whatever he was presenting, either it was visual data, either it was kinesthetic data, or it was specific facts and figures in terms of numbers. So numbers are easily they are quantifiable and people can understand it a lot easier than if you become very verbose and use a lot of words. So this is what I mean by choose to be concrete instead of being vague. Okay. Seek active participation. Well, if you can't involve your audience, then your presentation is a lost cause. Unfortunately, right now we are just going against the grain. We are unable to interact with the audience, but when you are actually doing and trying to do a good presentation, there should be ample participation from the audience, and the more you interact with them, the more they are gripped onto what you're saying. So you're basically like the Pied Piper or the magician who plays the pipe and the audience just follows you around. I couldn't think of any way to interact with the audience, so the last resort for me was to prepare this quiz and send it out to the audience in the hope that they are solving this quiz and hence in some way they are involved with what is happening here on the screen, because I have absolutely no idea about what the audience is doing right now. Okay, next is be brief. Yes, the last quotation, if you recall correctly, it says, no one ever complained about a short presentation. People only complain if it is long. So the shorter your presentation is, the more it will be appreciated by people. So yes, be brief. And the last one is call to action. If you are not able to rouse the rabble, if you're not able to make them do what you want them to do, then your entire time invested in the presentation is lost. So call to action means at the end of today's presentation, if people go and do something, to brand themselves or maybe change the way they do presentation, then that is known as some action that I've got out of the audience. So every time you put in some effort, it has to give you some results, and that result is what I call to action. Okay, we will be moving on to chapter 4. You might be glad to know that chapter 4 does not have a quiz, so I will give you a break here. So chapter 4 is about, oh my God, it's just a little box. And I will not stress you much by asking you to guess what it is. We are going to be talking about office and cubicle etiquettes. Etiquette. Most of us, even in college, it's become like a corporate sitting area nowadays. And, it's no more like the old fashioned offices. It's been divided into cubicles. And we want, because we are sharing such a small space with so many people, we want a few practices to be in place. The word etiquette is just a fancy word for simple kindness. So if you're considerate towards other people around you, even while traveling in the train, the metro, or the bus, it's basically the same thing that you do in the office. So I would just quickly take you through the practices. It's your office, so you must keep your cubicle organized and clean, because if you are a messed up person inside, then you keep the outside also messed up. So be orderly in your head, keep your things ordered, and the outside should also be in ship shape. Okay, next is keep your volume down. This is really sad. I see while traveling, sometimes people are talking on their phone on loudspeaker, or they're watching a video, keeping it on the speaker. This is poor practice, and this is something we shouldn't be practicing at all. Even with your earphones on, or even when you are holding the phone, keep your volume down so that it does not disturb something else. Practice 3, visit colleagues in person. Well, your colleague might be just sitting in the next cubicle, so you do not keep sitting and hollering out to her or him to pass you something or to ask something. If you need to talk to a person, you need to walk out of your cubicle, enter the other person's cubicle, and then talk. Okay, now you do not just walk into the cubicle just because there is no door to the cubicle. You still need to announce yourself, because you never know, somebody might be doing something and might get startled if you just pop up like a weasel. So always announce yourself when you are going into someone else's cubicle. Practice 5 is avoid group chats. This is something we love to do, especially I have noticed during the lunch break, you would go to your favorite colleague and maybe 4 or 5 of you would sit together in a cubicle and you talk. You might be taking a lunch break, but somebody else might be working. So, avoid group chats. Inside, there is always a bay area or a place where you can sit and eat, a cafeteria where you need to go and do all these group activities, definitely not in somebody else's cubicle. Moving on to the next slide. Practice 6. Don't eat in your cubicle. If it's an air-conditioned room and you open your tiffin box, maybe with a nice spicy food or maybe fermented food, the smell kind of is all pervasive, and everybody else in the room is forced to smell it. So do not eat in your cubicle, and whether the food is with odor or odorless, it does not matter. You need to eat your food outside your cubicle. You need to go to the cafeteria or the common area, and that is where you eat your food. Okay, practice 7. Avoid interrupting others. That means if somebody is on the phone, or if somebody is in a meeting, just because you want to know something, you simply do not barge into the conversation and interrupt others. You wait until they have finished talking or doing whatever, and then you interrupt. Okay, this is the most important thing. Again, I will talk about us Indians in the context of India. In India, we feel that our bosses will be very happy if we turn up at work, even though we are very sick, trying to make a point that we are overly diligent, and see, I have turned up for work even though I'm very, very sick. Just be impressed with me. But that's a totally wrong idea. You taking your germs to work will make sure that 3, 4 others around you would fall sick and would go through the same suffering. So if you're sick, do yourself and your colleagues a favor and do not come to work. Next is tone down your noisy habits. I have seen people who are thinking or maybe nervous, or they're just bored to death. They click their pen, the back part of their pen, they click it on and off, or, they tap their heels, or they drum their fingers on the tabletop. These are noisy habits. These might be entertaining for you, but they are not at all entertaining for people around you. So the last practice is don't borrow things without permission. Just because you need the stapler and you can see it in your neighbor's desk, just don't go and pick it up without first asking whether you can take it, even though it's very easy for you to take it. So this part of this chapter is pretty easy to go through. No videos, no pictures. So we will move on to chapter 5. But before I move on to chapter 5, again, we will go to our quiz pattern. Sir, can you please post the link? And once the link is in place, we will wait for 3 minutes for you to take the quiz, and then we will continue with the content.
Yes. So it's chapter 5, Dick, right?
Chapter 5, yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start my stopwatch now. Okay. So there goes the 3 minutes that is required to work out the quiz. I hope people are still doing it and you've not dropped out. Um, so here, these are greetings from around the world, and I think most of you have guessed correctly that I'm going to talk about cross-cultural awareness. Now, in order to experience different cultures, you don't even have to walk out of India, because the culture of Tamil Nadu might be very different from the culture of Andhra Pradesh, might be very different from Uttar Pradesh, might be very different from Kashmir. So, you know, cross-cultural doesn't mean you have to go all the way to US to find a difference in culture. We need to know, understand, and respect what is around us. So we are all different, which is great because we are all unique. Without diversity, life would be so boring. Yes, that's so true. And the first step to become culturally aware is the more you expose yourself, the more you see, the more you learn to tolerate practices which are different from yours. Uh, uh, I have seen, people in India frowning upon practices from other people from other states in India. Now, it is really so sad. Um, you need to understand that cultural practices come basically again from the geographical location that you are in. If you belong to a dry place where there is no water body like rivers, then it's obvious you do not have access to fish. And it is also obvious that you are not rice eaters, because paddy fields need a lot of water to grow, for the rice to grow. So places which are arid, mostly they are roti eaters, and mostly they are into drier vegetables, and mostly they are vegetarian. But people who stay near the coastal areas and have access to a good amount of water are obviously fish eaters, meat eaters, and they're more into the rice eating culture. Now, when you're eating roti, roti is supposed to be eaten with slightly drier vegetables. So the possibility of smearing your finger with a lot of gravy stuff is not there. But if you go to states like West Bengal, like most of the South Indian states, most of our food is rice, and rice needs to be mixed with something liquidy. So it is obvious that we will be using our fingers to eat that food. And it is also possible a little bit of the gravy might just roll down. But I've seen people from the dry regions, frowning down upon this practice. And I'm going to share a real life incident with you, and I think you will understand what I'm talking about. This is, I was teaching in a residential college towards the beginning of my career, and the teachers and the students used to stay in the same premise. Okay, so it was associated with Canadian university. So half the teachers in that college were from India, and half the teachers were from Canada. So for the math subject, the Indian counterpart was called Raman. He was from Tamil Nadu, and he is a typical Tamilian who used to wake up at 5 o'clock. He used to wear the mundu. He used to wear, put vibhuti and, chant loudly, ring the bell, pray. And he's a very, very, upfront kind of person. And he would tell things to your face. So, we pretty much liked and respected Raman as a person, very straightforward. He would never stab you in the back. But we also took some time to get used to his bluntness. So his counterpart was this Canadian lady, around 65-year-old, called Anne, who had just, she'd just come into India. And on that particular day, Anne, uh, uh, Raman, and I, we were sharing the lunch table. We were sharing a table. So Anne was sitting in front of me. I could see her, and Raman was sitting on my left hand side. And on that day, what they had served was rice and rasam. Now, I have been with Raman for almost 15 days by this time, and I was used to his routine of how he eats. So he generally goes to the counter, serving counter, he takes rice, he piles it up into a nice mound, and then he gets whatever liquid dal, sabji, in a bowl. He comes back, and then with his forefinger, what he does is he makes a crater at the top of the hill, the rice hill that he has, and then he pours his liquid item into that crater, into that volcano crater. Then he mixes it with his fingers and he has it. Now, for me, it is nothing strange because that's how people eat rice. But I guess Anne was seeing this procedure for the first time in her life, and I could see the changing expression in her face. Like, her eyes started going from small to big, and it had almost become like saucers. And, when she saw Raman mixing the rice and rasam with his fingers, and he was just about to put the first bolus in his mouth, there was this very shocked expression on Anne's face, and she couldn't just contain herself, and she screamed, "Raman, why are you dirtying your fingers?" This is exactly what she said. "Raman, why are you dirtying your fingers?" But Raman is somebody who's completely unflappable, and Raman finished chewing the bolus that is already in his mouth, and then he stops and looks at Anne for about 15 seconds, and I could see that Anne was getting kind of nervous, and all the other students in the dining hall were also quiet, wanting to see what reply would Raman give. So after a while, Raman, looking straight into Anne's eyes, he says, "Ma'am, in your country, do you consider food as dirt? Ma'am, in your country, do you consider food as dirt?" And this was such an insulting thing to Anne. She simply left the dining table, and for the next 15 days, there was no conversation between the two. What Anne said is, "Why are you dirtying your fingers?" And what Raman says is, "Do you consider food as dirt?" So this is a cultural difference. For them, they eat with, their forks and the spoons and the knives. The food might be dry. For us, a food might be liquidy, and it necessitates that we use our fingers. So these are different in knowing about different cultures and learning to tolerate them. You don't have to practice them. You don't have to make it a part of your life, but you need to tolerate them, and you need to learn to respect the differences. Even if you do not like something, the dislike should not show on your face. It should not show in any kind of your outward behavior. Now, that is a part of cross-cultural awareness. Step 3 is, don't stereotype. You have seen two people from south of India who likes idli dosa. You cannot go ahead and say that all South Indians like idli dosa. You have seen two businessmen evade taxes. You cannot go ahead and say that all businessmen evade taxes. So don't stereotype. You have met maybe two Americans, does not mean the whole of America is the way you think they are. Okay, so this is the problem with stereotyping, and the biggest pitfall we face is when we meet a few people from a certain culture, we tend to think we've become experts on that culture, and we start stereotyping. This is something that we need to avoid. Step 4 is, don't get personal. Don't get personal. This is exactly what I said in a previous chapter also, I think in chapter 2, when we are making first impressions, that we're so eager to know about people, and we do not understand what is personal and what is professional, the dividing line between professional and personal. And even in a professional setting, we start asking very personal questions. Now, that might be perfectly fine in the Indian context, but that might not work with a lot of other cultures. So don't get personal. Wait until the other person thinks of giving you any kind of information, if at all they choose to. Maintain social distance. This is not the COVID type social distance, but this is the kind of distance that is acceptable in any kind of social gathering. You might have seen that in the Middle East, men hug men in the form of greeting. But if you try doing the same thing to maybe Jimin, he might not like the close proximity. If you go to England and if you go to these really old English families, you will see that their dining tables are long and rectangular. And you will see one person sitting on one side of the table, and maybe the other person is sitting, 10 feet away on the other side. Their requirement for social distance is more. But if you go to Japan, Japan is an island country. People hardly have place to build houses. They stay in capsule hotels. So there, people might be sleeping next to each other. An entire family of 5 or 6 might sleep on the floor right next to each other. So the amount of distance you keep between people differs from culture to culture, but still there is an acceptable social distance that you need to maintain. So don't go very close to people while talking to them until and unless you really get to know them well. Okay, next one is don't be ethnocentric. Now, what is ethnocentricity? Is having an excessive pride in one's own culture, where you start thinking that our culture or my culture is superior and I'm superior to somebody else. So, when you make derogatory comments about other people, that's where you are guilty of ethnocentricity. So this sense of superiority complex and too much pride, we are talking about Indian culture, but I wonder how many of us really respect what is our culture. We are more keen on aping what is happening in the West. So yes, don't be guilty of ethnocentricity. And the next one is use bias-free words. Bias-free words, even in India, I have seen people calling people from UP as bhaiyas. Now that's very derogatory, and that's a biased word. Similarly, if you see people from the Northeast, we call them chinkis. This is again a biased word. When you see people from Africa, we call them niggers. These are biased words. Similarly, when you see Mexicans, mixed blood people, we call them mulattoes. These are all biased words. We need to be very careful when we're dealing with people that we make our words neutral. If you have to refer to people who are different in their features, then you refer to them as Mongoloids, you refer to them as Negroids, you refer to them as Africans, or you refer to them as blacks, but definitely not niggers. Okay. Next is learn a few foreign words. When I first came to Maharashtra, I used to have a hard time dealing with any kind of official work because I did not know a single word of Marathi. But then I learned a trick is, if you're able to go to the police station or maybe any other government office, maybe the university, and you can, stutter out a few words in their language, they're extremely pleased with the fact that somebody who does not belong to their area has taken the trouble to learn their language, and it kind of makes them warm up to you. So it is very, very important that if you're visiting a place, you're visiting a new country, pick up a few words. You have the internet at your fingertips, and it's a child's play nowadays. Next is, no matter which culture you go to, always be punctual. This is something we Indians really, really are bad at. We use time in chunks of plus minus 15 minutes, which means that if we go somewhere 15 minutes late is equal to 1 minute late, according to maybe the European standards. So if an European comes 1 minute late and we go 15 minutes late, we feel it's almost the same thing. So we use chunks in plus minus chunks of 15 minutes. So you will see our trains are not on time, even if, the government has to address us, even if there is a formal function, a wedding, nothing goes on time, nothing that is the printed time or the accepted, pre-decided time, nothing goes on time. But if you are dealing with clients, people from all over the world, this is one thing that will keep you in good stead, is to respect time, be punctual. I mean, there are so many other things that we could talk about, but I think I will not stretch it much further. And we would be moving on to the last chapter of today's session. Yes, the whole war part. I think if we get through that, we would have done a great day's job. I would request sir to post the last link. You have to finish the last quiz. After this, you go. I can't even say you go home free. You're already home. You're free of my clutches. So yes, sir, can you please post that link, and
Yes,
I
ma'am.
will.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I will go to the next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I forgot. There's step 10 also. Thank you, please. Sorry. No matter where you are, these 3 words will make life a lot easier and smoother. This is like a grease that you use, the engine oil that you use to run your business smoothly, to run your vehicle smoothly. So make sure you use it profusely.
Yes, done, ma'am.
Yes. The last part of a battle, the war of the chopsticks. I don't think you really need think too hard to figure out what this is about. We're going to talk about dining etiquette, but before we go through this slide, I would like you to finish during that quiz. And I'm going to again time myself for 3 minutes. I'm starting my stopwatch now. Okay, that's 3 minutes from my side. I hope you people have finished with the quiz. Um, of all the codes that I've used today, I love this one the most. The world was my oyster, but I used the wrong fork. Well, you might be doing an awesome presentation, you might have bagged an awesome deal, one of the most scary things we are expected to do sometimes is to go and attend a formal dinner party or a formal lunch, and it's really really harrowing when you go and see so many things on the table, and you know, even I forget, which one is to be used with what. So I will try my level best to, walk you through some of the things that we might come across and, find it a little mind boggling. And what we're going to do is study a formal dinner setting. And even if I show you the image from the link that I've created, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. So I'm going to go out of this screen, and I'm going to show it to you from my folder.
Ma'am?
Yes, I'm just opening the dining table setting picture, and I will share the screen.
Yes, but can you share your desktop? When
Okay.
you are sharing screen, can you share your desktop?
Okay. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, let me stop share.
Now please share your desktop.
Okay. Can you see?
Yes, I can see your mails now with this one. PC now.
Okay, so now I'm going to show this picture. Is it visible to everyone?
No, ma'am, it's not visible.
No, we can't see it, Chumki ma'am.
Now? Is it visible?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay. This is painful. Is it visible now?
No,
Oh.
not yet. So,
I will stop and I will start again. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay.
yes, it's
Where did it?
visible. Yes.
Okay, so this is how a typical formal dinner setting looks like. And we will start with the dinner plate, which, if you will see, the crosshair is right at the bottom here. And on top of that, you have either the soup bowl, soup plate, or the salad plate. Now, if it is a flatter plate, then you know that they will be serving salad. If it is a slightly, if there's a dip inside the plate, then you know that they're going to be serving you soup. Minded, when we go to Chinese restaurants, the way they serve soup in a bowl with those scoop kind of spoons are definitely not what is used in a formal dinner setting. The soup spoon looks quite different from the ones that we use in the Chinese restaurant. So if you have the dinner plate, which is known as the service plate, on top of it, either you will have the soup plate or you will have the salad plate. Okay. Then, for all the spoons, the forks that are kept here, there is a simple rule which is known as the outside to inside. Outside to inside means you'll be using this first, then this. So you will not pick up the knife first, or you will not pick up this fork first, dinner fork. You will start with the soup spoon first, then maybe you go to the salad fork, then maybe you go to the dinner knife and dinner fork. And obviously, if they're serving tea somewhere in between, you use the teaspoon. Okay, now I need to tell you something. Our concept of a salad, Indian salad, is the ghas type, where you have shredded cabbage, maybe some carrot and lettuce and all. But if you go to the Western countries, a salad mostly is seafood based. That means it might have oysters, or it might have some boiled egg or snails or some kind of small pieces of meat. So hence you need a salad fork to eat the salad with. Okay. Also, when you are talking about a formal dinner setting, here we are talking about food which needs to be cut. For example, if we give you a steak, for that you need the knife, because a steak is quite rubbery, and there is no way you can make pieces of it until and unless you have a dinner knife. Interestingly, is some of the so-called fine dining places that you go to in India still do not understand the concept of a dinner knife. What they end up giving you is something like a butter knife with a blunt edge. Now, a proper dinner knife, which has to cut through meat or fish, has a serrated edge. That means it's really sharp and it can cut through meat and all. So that is the difference between the bread and the butter knife and the dinner knife. This will be serrated. The edges will be serrated if you look at it. Okay, you have the napkin on the left hand side. You have the teacup and the saucer. You have the dessert spoon and you have the dessert fork. Now, why would you need a dessert spoon and a fork? For example, if they serve you something that is a little stiff, for example, a pastry, if a pastry is stiff, then you need to eat it with a fork. But something which is a little liquidy, for example, they give you pudding or they give you tiramisu, then you need to use the dinner spoon, the dessert fork to scoop it up and eat. If it is something, if for example, if it's like a jelly cube, then you eat it with a fork. If it is liquidy, something like custard, you use it the dessert fork. Then you have the bread plate. In India, when you go to any fine dining, they do give you the bread plate, but in India we call it the quarter plate. And also you have the bread knife. Now the bread knife is not to cut through the bread. The somebody has to mute their. Excuse me. Excuse me. Somebody has to mute their microphone, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So the bread knife is not really to cut through the bread, but in Western standards, when you're eating bread, a croissant, a bread, or a roll, you are supposed to put some butter, on it and then eat the bread. So this is basically to scoop the butter out, spread it on your bread piece by piece and eat. Oh, now this is the scary part is where you have so many glasses. There are 3 glasses in a row, and one is for water, one is for red wine, one is for white wine. Okay, that is quite a mouthful, and it's difficult to remember. So I have a simple way of remembering it. I call it WRW. Okay, white water, red wine, white wine. So white water to me is white water, W, red wine, RW. So there is a single R sandwiched between 2 W's. The first one generally is bigger in size, and hence it is for water. In India, we are staying in a very hot country, so our consumption of water is a lot more. So the tumblers or the glasses in which we serve water is really big. But if you go to colder countries, you will see that the consumption of water is much less. Plus, they are also supplementing it with alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks. So their water glasses are generally like a goblet, but it is still bigger than the red wine glass or the white wine glass. So this is WRW. That is what you have to remember. I think we have pretty much covered this one. I'm going to go out of this one. Okay, how do I share my PPT now? Yep. this is getting to be very painful. Okay, so we have covered, how a formal setting looks like. And the next one is the outside inside rule. Again, we talked about use the cutlery that's on the outside, furthest away from your plate, and work your way inside. That is the outside inside rule. Step 3 is remember the B and the D rule. Okay, now, if you hold up your fingers, can you see? I don't know if you can see. Can anybody give me a confirmation if you see? Can you see my hand gesture?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, right. So on the left-hand side of your dinner plate is your bread plate. So this looks like a B to yourself, not what you're seeing, okay? Make the same gesture to yourself. And on the right-hand side of your dinner plate, the glasses for the drinks. So whenever you sit down and you see that there is a long table or there's a round table and there are so many places around you, sometimes we end up grabbing the glass of the person to the left instead of grabbing our own. So, it goes one step on the other side. So instead of that, you need to know that your bread plate, roti, naan plate is always on the left hand side. So with the B, you figure it out for yourself. Whether it is Indian bread, Western bread, it is B. And the D for yourself is for drinks. So your water glasses, whatever beverages they're going to serve is on the right hand side. Whatever they're going to serve on the quarter plate is on the left hand side. This is the B and the D rule. So when you're sitting down to eat, most of us are right-handed, right? So if somebody comes and serves us food from the right, it will just interfere with our right hand while we are eating. So food is always served from the left-hand side because we do not generally use our left hand, and the left hand is kept on our lap. So the food is always served from the left-hand side, but once you've finished eating and you have kept back your spoon, fork, everything, the plates are whisked away from the right hand side. So serve from the left and clear from the right. Pass counterclockwise. We are right-handed people, and sometimes if you have to pass, a certain item, it is difficult sometimes to use the left hand because the strength in the left hand is not so much. So whether you're lifting something heavy or right, we have better control of our right hand. So we always pass the food from our right hand side. That means the person sitting to our right is the next person to us. So we turn it anti-clockwise or counterclockwise. So there was a question in the quiz about this too, I think. Next one is remember standard table signs. For example, when you are sitting at a table, not exactly table signs, we cannot keep our elbows, etiquette says we cannot keep our elbows on the table. So at all times, your elbows should be somewhere near your lap. Next thing is when you are opening the napkin should not be unfurled like this, the entire thing, with a little twist. What you need to do is keep the napkin folded in half, and you're supposed to lift one edge of the napkin and only dab and not just wipe your face all over, So again, these are silly etiquette, silly mannerisms, but that's how things are. Otherwise, we'll end up being like Oscar Wilde, where we use the wrong fork. Okay, now sometimes because we are busy people, sometimes while having dinner, you might be receiving a call on the phone and you have to take it. It's urgent. So how do you go out from there and also indicate at the same time that please do not clear away my table or my plate, I'm going to come back. So what you do is you leave your napkin on your chair. And also the way you keep your cutlery, the silver cutlery as in your spoon and fork, will also tell you this. Again, I have to show you a picture. And again, I have to go through that entire okay. Can you see? No. Let me assume you can't see. I think now you'll be able to see. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay. So when you have to leave your table, again, funny thing is, whatever the Europeans do, the Americans will definitely find a way of doing just the opposite, just for the heck of it. So for if we British people spell it as COLOUR, they'll make sure that they'll spell it as COLOR. If we say anti-missile, they will say anti-missile. So yes, they do everything the other way around. So the Americans generally, when they are resting in between eating, or maybe they're talking, they leave their knife on top and they leave the fork in this position, 10 to 4, 10 to 4 position. And you need to understand, the picture is not very clear. The tines of the fork, the tines have to be facing upwards. If the tines are facing downwards, it simply means that you have finished eating. So this is one place where both the Americans and the Europeans agree, is when you're finished eating and you want someone to take away your plate and serve the next item, you put both of them at 10 to 4 position, and you put the tines facing downwards. This is when you are in a European continent and you're resting. Okay, it's easy to remember why they are different. Is in America, after you cut your food into bit-sized pieces, they transfer the fork from the left hand to the right hand, because predominantly we are right-handed and it's easier to use the fork with the right hand. So when people are resting, the Americans, they keep their fork somewhere here on the right hand. The British people or the European people, on the other hand, they never take the fork away from the left hand and transfer it to the right hand. Throughout the meal, their fork is always on the left hand, and they eat one piece at a time. That means they'll cut one piece, they'll pierce it with their fork, and they'll eat. They'll cut the next piece, pierce it. So at no time do they transfer the fork from the left hand to the right hand. And that is why it will be easy for you to remember the resting place also. If it is somewhere in the right, that means this is the American standard. If your fork, you're keeping it on the left, it's in the British way. Okay, I will go out of this, and I need to share my screen again. Okay, I'm not going to play it anymore. Okay, next is learn some French terms. In the beginning of the quiz, remember I had given you the difference between a starter and an appetizer. Basically, they're both the same thing. The Americans call it appetizer, whereas the people from the European continent, they call it the starter. Similarly, when you come across words like a la carte, okay, by the menu, as opposed to a buffet meal, or when they say we're gonna serve hors d'oeuvre. Now, the spelling is horrible and we don't know how to pronounce, because most of them are French terms. So a lot of items related to dining comes from the French people, because they are supposed to be the experts in terms of food and gastronomic knowledge. So it is always helpful to learn a few French terms. For example, they might say entree is the next thing, and you don't know what is an entree or how to pronounce it. So it is always good to do a little bit of research beforehand and then go ahead. I think that's all I have for the viewers today. We are up with the next slide, which is a simple thank you. I think there is a session for the viewers to type out if there is any question that you would like to ask me, and the moderators would get back to me with a question. I would love to answer, because throughout this entire time, I didn't get a chance to interact with you. So yes.
Chinky ma'am, there is a question asked by a student, a participant, and that is, I'll just read out the question because you had referred to kinesthetic in your earlier slides, I think, something about kinesthetic learning.
Yes.
And I think she's interested in knowing what is the method, to be applied for this kind of learning for reading and writing, Uh, I think she's linking it. The person who asked this question is Sarika Ravishankar Avasthi. So her question is, which teaching method to be used by a teacher to teach read or write and kinesthetic learners? So I think that is what she means. With your understanding, I think you can explain to her in the best way possible.
Right.
Yes.
So, see, when you go to the chemistry lab or the physics lab, whatever experiments you're doing is kinesthetic learning. So during your lectures, you are going through maybe the audio visual, the read and write method, but when you're doing it practically with your own hands where your body is involved, that is your kinesthetic learning. A simple thing is when I'm talking about formal dressing, sometimes I ask my students that, they need to come and demonstrate how to knot the tie, because many of us, we think we know how to knot the tie, but when the time actually comes, we're asking our parents to knot it for us. So nowadays there are different kinds of knots. So when somebody is demonstrating and the students are maybe doing it on their own with a tie, this is kinesthetic learning. Or for example, when you pull out somebody and say, show me how you shake hands, and you actually do it, that is kinesthetic learning. So a huge component of your teaching cannot be kinesthetic. It has to be a good combination of read and write, audio visuals, and kinesthetic. But there has to be some amount of kinesthetic. You are not kindergarten students. Kindergarten students are more bodily involved in the whole thing. So for them, it is 70% kinesthetic learning, and maybe, the 10, 20% or 30% of read and write and audiovisual. But the older you grow, the amount of kinesthetic learning comes down. But I still want to insist that it is very important. And it depends on you as a presenter, how impressive you can be, for you to think out ways how you can, add the kinesthetic element to it. Did you see how Steve Jobs, that it was brilliant how he used that envelope, he pulled out and he showed it, with his hands, and people could almost feel it. See, he couldn't give it in people's hand, but he could show, and that was almost as good as a kinesthetic experience for the people. Okay.
Hello, Chumki ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Can I ask a question to you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Ma'am, my question is, as you said that a person should be ethical or ethically correct. Yeah. But at times you work at such place which is not as per your ethics. There you will have to be politically correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That is called
And
being
many a time, many a time you stuck in such moral dilemma that what is the right way to choose the things or take the right decision. And when your job is at stake and that's your need, you can't leave it. So how to deal with such situations of moral dilemma?
I always there is a very famous saying which says every dog has its day.
Yeah.
Today you are in a tight spot. It's better to lie low, keep your head down, because see, it's a matter of your job, your bread and butter. So sometimes it helps to keep your mouth shut, see what is happening, but you know for sure that the same person who has troubled you will need your help someday, and that is the time that you can get back and tell them that, see, you had done this, but I am not the same person as you. You might have taken a chunk out of me, a bite out of me, but I'm not a dog. I'm human, and I'm going to treat you like a human. So time is the best thing that people have. Don't think that your repartee or your actions have to be immediate. You can wait for some time, and definitely the time will come. And if something wrong is happening to you, trust me, ma'am, apart from you, there will be other people facing the same problem.
Yeah.
So sometime or the other, the tables will turn. And sometime or the other, the person who is troubling will be the one who is troubled. But yes, I always believe that if you see something repeatedly is being done wrong, then somebody has to take the initiative to, start a revolution. Maybe if you have that kind of strength in you, you can start the revolution. If you know that you are not that strong, you wait for someone to take charge. And if not, you wait for time, and your time will come.
Thank you.
I hope I hope I've answered you.
Yes, yes.
Anupama ma'am?
Yes, I think those were the questions, Jumki ma'am. And there are no enough more. I mean, we had fewer questions because your presentation was so elaborate and it was world class, to tell you the truth, because you know, enunciated every part that generally we have a problem in. And the whole part was that participants must be equally enamored, just like I was, because especially the dinner part, we in our country have such a different style that what you informed us was something tremendous. We don't take the trouble of actually going to that part and saying it's something that maybe people in the hospitality would know. So it was really informative. Even as guests, I think we should know that, even if we attend some grand dinner, because the trouble you've taken to go to that, I really appreciate that. And from my side, I just need to ask you, does accent matter, as a person who is training? Because it's also part of etiquette. Many people say don't mispronounce this, and don't, and we tend to cramp our natural style. So I just want to ask you, is it okay if we are as we are, or should we try to acquire a few training sessions on this part?
No,
So please elucidate.
yeah. I want to say something. The place you're born in will always be in you. You can take the girl out of the village, you can't take
Yeah.
the village out of the girl. So
Yeah.
if I am Bengali, I am bound to sound like a Bengali, and no amount of training can change the way I sound. But what I can do is I can learn to try and become neutral. So the idea is not to acquire an accent, the idea is to get rid of an accent if you have, and move towards neutral accent. So if you listen to readers of BBC News, if you don't see them, you possibly cannot say whether they're black, whether they are Mongoloid in origin, or they're actually people, fair-skinned people from the United Kingdom. So the idea is, if people do not see that I'm brown skinned, maybe listening to me, they should not be able to say whether I'm from India or I'm from maybe Australia or from Sri Lanka. So this is what we would like to try to work towards, is a neutral accent. Get rid of accent, don't acquire an accent. And the next thing is, if you try to put on an accent, there is a very funny joke which says you can say tea, then you can say coffee, and then you'll say biscuit. One fine day when you're not aware, then you come back to your original accent. So it is always best not to make a laughing stock of yourself, and stick to what you're comfortable at for the long run.
One last question. Is it okay in today's world to do a namaste when we are greeting? Because
Yes.
yeah, so
And there was a question.
Yeah.
I'm totally very proud to be an Indian, and wherever I go, I would prefer to do my own country. It's your
Yes.
lack of knowledge if you don't know what a namaste means, right? So even though the correct answer I've given is be a Roman when in Rome, but if you have confidence in yourself, because you will see that the Japanese people, no matter where they go, they don't speak a word of English. They don't use English greetings. They know that the world needs them, so they do everything in their terms. So they bow down and greet, and they talk in Japanese. The other people have to get translators to understand. So the same way, yes, if you have confidence and you love your culture, namaste, there is nothing better than namaste. So actually, I was trying to look at an option where namaste and the greeting of the other country both could be chosen. However, the software that I was using did not allow me, so I was forced to say, okay, be a Roman when in Rome. But I personally believe namaste should do it.
Your answer actually
That learn the greeting of the country you're in, which is good for a first impression, but in the long run, just be who you are.
Yeah. Ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that's the confusing part which you solved, because we have to be, adapting to the surroundings. That's the basic thing. But it's okay as long as we are genuine and kind and we smoothen the parts, which is what I took away from what you said, that it is important to be good human beings in the end and things become smooth. So this is what I take from your class, and I'm sure all the participants did. So I just will check if there are more questions that have come. Otherwise, I think
Call it a day.
yeah, it is a wonderful thing, I just check. Yeah. Uh, I don't think there are any more questions, but yes, I must thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the whole STTP team and the participants, because it was very enriching. And I have no intention of flattering my friend and, someone who's in the same field, but it was world class, I repeat, because of the things that you handled and so warmly, so genuinely, and you were absolutely transparent, so that makes you more endearing for us also who are struggling with online sessions. So it was a very genuine presentation, very enriching. It reached very informative to all of us. Thank you so much, Chimki ma'am, for having first accepted our invitation and then putting in so much of effort to cover all the points and in such a nice way, though it might be exhausting to you, but was not exhausting for your participants, because we thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm sure all will agree with us. Yes. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, so much.
Yeah.
I was really honored that you people thought I could come for a session.
No,
So,
the honor is ours.
in this bid, I learned how to use Zoom, maybe not very well still, but certain things. So yeah, it was wonderful, and the team, the entire team who coordinated with me, was there throughout. I want to thank Prashant sir. I want to thank Mansi ma'am, you, and also there was one more sir.
Doble, sir.
Doble sir, yes, Sandeep Doble
He is
sir.
the knight in the shining
Yes,
armor
yes,
for you
yes,
today, because he helped us from a very
throughout.
sticky situation.
Yes, yes. And not for a moment was I left alone, to flounder around. So thank you so much.
Yes.
And
Okay. Yeah.
good day to all
Yeah.
my viewers. If
Thank
there are any left, that is. I can't
Yes.
make out if they have
No,
dropped
no.
out like flies,
No,
but
no. They were very active, and many of them, when your screen was not seen, one of them told me that we want you to tell ma'am कि screen nahi hai. So then we took the steps, and they were very happy. So I'm sure we've, and the feedback will tell us how many students were there, but I can assure you it was a very enriching session. Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I will say a namaste to all of
Yes.
you,
Yes.
and adieu,
Yeah.
bye-bye. Okay, I can switch off now, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Yes.
Thanks to all of you.
Yeah. Mute.